2026, the Middle East enters a new phase of conflict. Reports have confirmed that Iran's president has died under unclear circumstances. Inside Iran now, some people are celebrating, others are crying. Well, most of the people of Iran are happy from the freedom that they finally got after the death of the dictator of Iran. But as we all know, that when leadership falls during war or tension, instability grows in the country. Now we'll answer the billion dollar questions one by one. What were the reasons behind the escalation of this war? Why was the US Israel Iran war started? What happened during the war? And what led to the death of the dictator of Iran? So, a few months back, the tensions were already rising between the countries. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, it reported that Iran had enriched and increased its uranium content up to 60%. And according to that agency reports, natural uranium was increased up to 0.7%, electricity use 3 to 5%, medical use 20%, and weapons grade was increased up to 90%. And at 60%, Iran was technically much closer to the weapon capability than the civilian energy use. For the United States and Israel, that was completely unacceptable. As we all know that US can never tolerate any country becoming a nuclear superpower. And both the intelligence of both the countries estimated that Iran was building a nuclear weapon 100% because of the uranium content enrichment, as I showed you in the International Atomic Energy Report. So, both the countries decided to plan an attack on Iran on February 28, 2026. But before planning the attack, they had to justify their actions in front of the public. So, what exactly were the reasons that both the countries' intelligence gave to the public to justify their attack on Iran? The government of both the nations justified their actions with several claims. First, preventing a nuclear threat. As I already explained you, that US and Israel believed that Iran was 100% building a nuclear bomb or a nuclear weapon or strengthening enrichment capabilities as it did with uranium. So, to prevent Iran from doing this or becoming a nuclear superpower, both the intelligence gave this reason that we are going to generate world peace. That's why we have to stop Iran. Second was stopping Iran's missiles. They also claimed that Iran's long-range missile program was very dangerous and could threaten the regional allies and the Western countries in future as well, potentially. Third was nuclear threats and proxy conflicts. As we all know that Iran always had a backing of terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, which has fought Israel multiple times and has multiple times opposed the US interests. So the strikes were framed as to reduce the Iran's capacity to use these networks. Human rights and regime change statement that Trump has always manifested for the past few months. So US leadership also claimed that Iran had been repressing its internal protests, as we all know about the dictator of Iran, Ali Khamenei, that he used to repress the internal protests of Iran and never used to match the rights of the citizens, specifically women. So, US used it to accuse the Iran's government of being dysfunctional and illegitimate, and it had to be stopped for the sake of the Iranian citizens. These were the preemptive reasons, the most senseless reason. The Trump's administration officials said that they attacked Iran because the intelligence CIA estimated that Iran might be attacking the Gulf where the US bases are situated at. So to stop Iran, which Iran actually did in the future in the war, but to stop that they had to start a war with Iran. So these were all the reasons that both of the government gave to the public to justify their actions. Now let's come to the main day of attack, February 28th, 2026. According to the reports, the coordinated strikes of US and Israel mainly targeted the military bases, air defense systems, suspected nuclear facilities of Iran, and the command centers as well. Their objective was quite simple, to weaken the Iran's military and the nuclear infrastructure as well. According to reports, some defense officials were killed, and Iran called it all an act of aggression, purely an act of aggression. So what did Iran do? Did it respond? Yes, Iran responded with an attack. Missile and drone strikes of Iran reportedly targeted the US-linked military assets with the Gulf, naval position, strategic oil locations, and the infrastructure near UAE, specifically Dubai, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain. Now, during the attack, regional airspace restrictions were followed. Dubai's airport was even shut down temporarily. Now, the Gulf countries activated their defense systems. Some intercepted missiles, some faced limited damage, but the message was quite clear by Iran's side that they are not going to absorb any kind of strike from US on Israel, US and Israel, quietly. Because of these strikes by Iran, many casualties happened in Dubai, Bahrain, and Qatar, followed by a lot of infrastructural damage as well. The mystery behind the president's death, here comes the most complicated part. According to the reports, the mystery behind this death remains unclear. Nobody knows how the Iranian president was killed. But there are some possible scenarios which are being discussed internationally right now. First is the direct strike impact by the US and Israel. Second is the internal power struggle. Third, which makes the most sense, the international led, intelligence led covert operations by the CIA or Mossad, which they both could do very conveniently and effectively. And fourth reason, which is the most senseless, accidental death or any secondary consequence of military action. No confirmed independent investigation has fully clarified the death behind Iran's president, the cause of the Iran's president death. When high level deaths happen during the war, speculation increases, and when speculation increases, the instability grows in the country, as I explained to you earlier as well. Now, what happens next? What happens in the upcoming days of the war? Now, this is where things get serious. Here are four major possible outcomes that could happen in the upcoming days of this war. Outcome number one is the controlled escalation. Iran would retaliate according to this estimation but would avoid full regional war. US and Israel would limit their further strikes. Back channel diplomacy will begin. Tensions would remain high but contained, limited, and controlled. Outcome number two is the regional war. Since we all cannot disagree on the fact that this war is all happening on the sensitive land of Middle East, if this war escalates any further, proxy groups in Lebanon, Gaza, and Yemen would open new fronts. To retaliate, the Gulf countries would ally their military with US. During the war, Strait of Hormuz, where the oil routes are situated at, would get disrupted. The oil prices globally would rise sharply, and the market is also going to react very sharply. Outcome number three is the internal power shift in Iran. When the president died and leadership weakened, hardliners could take control, which is very difficult right now, or internal factions could follow up and make major political changes in Iran. But if mass protests grow, a major internal political shift could follow up. Regime change in Iran is historically complex and unpredictable. Outcome number four is the darkest outcome of all, the global power realignment. In this war, if Russia or China steps in diplomatically or militarily, this war could move beyond the region, beyond just the Middle East region. Not necessarily a world war, not for now at least, but a new geopolitical bloc alignment would be made, like the alliances of NATO and BRICS have been earlier made as well. When superpower choose sides, the global balance always changes. Wars rarely begin with just one event. They grow, they build. One strike, one retaliation, one death, one power vacuum, and suddenly the history shifts. 2026 may not end the world, but it could redefine the history and the fate of the Middle East for the next decade. What we are witnessing right now may not be the end of a war, but the beginning of a new balance of power. Moments like these shape the future long before even the world fully understands them. This was today's case study, guys. I hope you have liked it. Please follow my channel and subscribe for more such documentaries.